Our next guest is a writer, professor, contributor to The New Yorker, and semi-pro pickup basketball player. I might be teasing about that last part, avid basketball player. But Thomas Beller certainly loves basketball so much that he wrote a book about it. Lost in the Game is part journalistic account, part memoir, and all around entertaining. Welcome to New Day.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Well, Seattle sports fans have a complicated relationship with basketball, which we're going to get to. But first, I'm curious where your love of the game came from.
Yeah, my love of the game didn't begin with me being some talented, amazing basketball player.
No.
In fact,
At age of 3?
My theory is that the super talented guys and women are often done with the game when they're finished their professional career or their Division I career, and it's the underachievers who are still fanatically working on their game into an almost inappropriate, unseemly age for that kind of devotion. But that would be me.
And that goes along with, right before we went on, you actually called this The Greatest Vice?
Yes, I was thinking of calling the book
or?
The Last Vice, yeah.
Okay, and then which goes to that whole idea that they're playing it longer than they should?
Well, it's like, as I mentioned in the book, so half of the book is about the NBA, half is about pickup basketball. And at some point it dawned on me that in the same way that people go to bars and disappear
Right.
after work, or in the afternoon there's this sort of illicit, like you go and vanish into your special private place, which is you get away from it all, that pickup basketball takes place at the same time and fulfills a similar function.
Well, so what made you go from that I love to watch and play it to I need to write a book?
Well, the precipitating event was I write for the New Yorker magazine, and I teach in Tulane University in New Orleans, and the All-Star Game came to New Orleans in 2014, and I had done a little bit of sports journalism, and I said, can I have a press pass? And I went down and saw the circus backstage and was so intrigued and interested, I started going to games and writing essays about NBA players and NBA life, for lack of a better word. And at the same time, I'd been working on these personal pieces about pickup basketball. And at some point, it seemed like, why don't we put them all together?
So what's changed in the game of basketball, both for professionals, but also those that playground basketball?
Well, you know, there's a lot of sort of strange nostalgia for a kind of non-wimpy sort of basketball when men were men and blood came pouring out of all the orifices in their body at the end of a game.
This sounds very familiar.
Well, you know, it's a 90s
like
thing. There's a lot of, you see it on TNT when Kenny and Shaq and Charles Barkley sort of are expressing impatience with this modern game. But I'm, by the standards of civilians, kind of tall. By NBA standards,
Yep.
I'm not that tall. I'm 6'5½". But when I played college basketball in the 80s and so forth, I had to go to the post and stay. It's being like in a jail, you know. And now
Oh, you have to stay there.
Yeah, well, in the modern game, the big men can come out and shoot threes and handle the ball, and you've got guys like Brook Lopez and Nikola Jokic who are, well, particularly Jokic, creating, and that's really fun. So I went from having to be like the drummer to you get to now play lead guitar.
And what about playground basketball? Has that changed?
Interesting. It's hard to generalize. I think the two things that have changed with playground basketball is childhood has become professionalized in every respect. And kids who are talented 10 or 11-year-olds or 14-year-olds who would just maybe go down to the local park and play pickup games, if they're actually any good, are often sequestered with a AAU team, or they have a personal coach,
Right.
and they're not going to mess around in
That's a lot of pressure on kids.
Yeah, so they're, like I said, and I think that probably pertains, that didn't even really occur to me until I saw some like 3-year-old on an ice skating rink with a personal hockey coach. It has nothing to do with basketball, but that's what for some reason made me realize like something is odd is happening here in the culture. So
and changing almost the joy you get from a game.
Yeah, so for a minute there I thought that, I wrote a whole piece called The City Game ? I thought that the playground basketball was being depopulated, but there's this other wellspring, a global wellspring. It's just a globally popular sport, and there are people out there playing, you know, at 4:30 in the afternoon. I don't know where they are in Seattle
And
yet.
I'd love to see that in a city. Okay, let's talk Sonics. This is obviously still a very sore spot around here. And frankly, there are even some that refuse to watch basketball at all until the Sonics are back or until we get a team. So what do you think about how it all went down, and where do you see us? Are we going to get that team?
Well, let me say that although I follow basketball, I have no great insider information on this. I'm just a citizen of the basketball world. And from where I stand, obviously, I think everyone agrees it was a crime. A crime was committed. The city was sort of...
We didn't pay him to say that.
Was mugged. No, I mean, I'm not pandering either. I think that's widely understood. I also think the Sonics, for strange reasons that having to do with it's like 1970s and early 80s teams, never mind Gary Payton and Sean Kemp, they occupy a sort of mythic place. And to illustrate that, I just want to say, I remember I started going to the NBA draft at the Barclays Center to cover it and see what there was to write about. And I remember one day coming down Atlantic Avenue in the afternoon with the sun, and it was very trafficky, and I was on a bicycle, and up ahead some dude was weaving in and out on a moped wearing a Sonics jersey on his way to the draft. And I can't remember if it was Kemp or Payton. I'm pretty sure it was Kemp. But it was just struck me as like, yes, if you're like a diehard NBA freak and you're going to the draft, whether or not he's from Seattle didn't even matter. It's just like they occupy a mythic place in you know, Gus Johnson, Jack Sikma's hair.
All right, quick question. Will we get a team in the next 5 years? Prediction.
Let me take my crystal ball.
Yes.
I'm definitely going to say, if you say 5 years, I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
If you say 2 years, who knows?
We'll take the 5 years.
Take the 5 years.
That was me on that moped. Just kidding. All right. Well, if you love basketball, check out Thomas's book, Lost in the Game. He also has a book event this Friday night at Elliott Bay Book Company, so go meet him there. All right.